All right, so we are recording. Don't forget to use the raise hand feature if you have a question. If you can't figure out where that is, please drop me a line and I will help you figure that out. So Don, what are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about getting to be one of Don's keepers. And all the new people that's first time in here, welcome and feel free to ask questions. We have a page on my webpage. It's called Don's Keepers. And I try to refer people when they call here for packages, nukes, to someone who's close to them. And if you're hauling bees, be sure to let people know that you'll haul them for them. And then the prices that you charge is up to you. You don't have to be on Don's Keepers, but in order to get on Don's Keepers on the page, you have to buy stock, a minimum of 25 nukes or 25 packages. Take classes. It's a $500 if you take the classes, and then you're in the door. We've got quite a few students. I've just actually signed up 3 new ones, and soon as they get a hold of Mr. E, we have Steve Chin. He's out of Holbrook, New York, and we have Thad Peach. He hasn't picked up his bees or started taking classes, but he's in Stanley, North Carolina. And we have one in Clifton, Missouri, Dennis Crutchfield, and he's probably on here tonight. And Al is already signed up and on the page, so it's something to think about. You don't need to do that, but a lot of people want to get bees as a hobby, then they want to start making a little bit of money, and they really don't know how to go about it. So this is actually a step into getting into the commercial beekeeping end. You could probably spend a whole lot more than $500, put your ads out there and advertise, but still, my name is out there. It's more well-known than a lot of people just starting out. And some of the techniques that we use is just a little bit different than the backyard beekeeper, especially making splits. We don't make the thick, heavy splits that most people do. Take a 10-frame hive and split it in half. We usually take a 10-frame hive. If it's a double deep, we'll make at least 15, 18 splits. But saying that, you need queens, mated queens, or queen cells. So that's the approach we use. And I know there's a lot of new people in here that are just on the edge of their seat waiting to ask questions. And if you need good breeder stock, if you want to sell, I found that a mix of several lines work good for me. Jason sells breeder queens if you want to get into running a purebred and have something, reliable. I buy bees from Jason, and I'll be buying more this spring. So try to keep the money circulating around the people that are in the business for a while, and not what I call the get in there and out the next year. We get a lot of people that try to get into commercial beekeeping and just basically try to undercut everything. No matter what business you are in, if it's selling bees or digging post holes or selling tractors, it costs you a certain amount of money to produce a certain product at a quality product. So if you're getting someone selling you something awful cheap, then I would think twice about it. So I'm going to open up to anybody that's got questions in here, and welcome all of our new visitors, and welcome back Darlene. She's one of our favorites here. We haven't seen her in a long time. So okay. Who's going first?
First up is going to be Jason. Go ahead, Jason.
Hello, I'm new. I don't have any bees yet. I've been studying this for about 6 months or so. Mm-hmm. But I'm an aquaculturist. I run a large fish farm, do about 2 million fish a year. I'm also in the meat goat business. Darlene, you should have had some good livestock guardian dogs that could have helped you out with that issue there. But what I'm having trouble understanding, now this might be an off year, a different year, an outlier because of the hurricanes. I'm here in the Panhandle. Of course, we took a Cat 5 to the face. I'm 30 minutes from Mexico Beach. Mexico Beach doesn't exist anymore. We're still pretty devastated here. So my question is, with this possibly being an outlier year, on a normal year, I'm having trouble understanding the demand. Where does the demand come from? There can't be that many new beekeepers every year.
You basically, you covered a lot of it right there. You said the devastation. You know, all the food that you eat has to be pollinated. So if you want to raise bees for people that pollinate, a lot of people that pollinate don't raise their own bees. Okay, so if you start at the West Coast, there's been fires, floods out there. The South, all along there, have been lost bees. The East Coast, there's more new beekeepers starting out, but that is not normally you're going to be your business. Your new beekeeper is going to buy 2 to 4, maybe 5 hives. It's the people that's going to do pollinating or want to sell honey as a sideliner. So there's always going to be a demand. I've been doing this a long time, and I have not yet had more bees sitting in my yard than I could sell.
So if we take this year as an outlier, so there is always a huge demand for bees for the nooks or the packages or stuff like that? Because I've been watching your videos the past 6 months of all the videos, and you seem like you can't get enough or have enough people sell to you. And I mean, from back in November, you started taking orders and all that kind of stuff. So, so is this a normal year? And is this, I mean, you said you've been doing this for a long time, and you said you've never had problems selling them.
I have students in a lot of states, and I swear, you know, you can ask them or even private message them. More than likely, most students 1 year or going into the second year cannot produce enough bees. There's a market out there, and the prices are not going to get any cheaper. When I started, you could buy queens for 25 cents. You could buy a package delivered to your house. Walter T. Kelly would have them delivered to your house for $10.50. So, you know, I've been in it a long time. I've seen the influx of new people. If you're going to get into it to make a big dollar, and if you don't love those bees, you ain't going to make it. First of all, you got to have a love for the bees and be able to want to take care of them. If it's dollar, you know, bottom line, you know, you need to buy something else or invest money in stocks or put your money in the bank. It's agriculture, and the last couple of years, you know, it's been awful rainy. We haven't been able to produce like we should. And one person by themselves starting out, you probably could do 200 to 300 queens, you know, every 2 weeks. That would be, you know, very modest. As far as selling nukes, you probably could sell at least 100 of them a year. It just depends on you, how many hours a day you can work and how many hives you can work in a day.
Yeah, well, I've been in agriculture all my life. I've just been on the fish side of it, you know,
Yeah.
in the fish business, not necessarily the bee business. So, but it's been fascinating to me and something I've been interested in.
If you get enough hives and you have a surplus of honey, you can sell it by the barrel. You're not, if you want to make money at this type of thing, you're not going to have the time to sit at flea markets or, you know, farmers markets and stuff like that and sit there and sell honey.
Yeah, the honey doesn't really, the honey doesn't necessarily interest me. I mean, me being a biologist, I'm more into the animals and the production and the cultivation of animals more than I am the production of honey and having to deal with marketing that and so forth.
Well, if you look at prices of what queens are going for probably $20 on the low end and probably $55 on the high end. And one person could easily make 100 queens a week. That's nothing. If you're getting $35 a queen, you know, that's pretty good. And, you know, you don't have to go through me. You can sell them on, there's Craigslist, there's Facebook, you can put on there. But the only thing you're not going to be able to do is you're not going to get on my group and advertise your product. You can do it on open Facebook. My group is set up for my students to pass information around.
Yes, and that kind of leads me into a follow-up question. I see on your map that you have on your website that there doesn't seem to, besides the Texas area, there doesn't really seem to be anybody lower than Atlanta. And like I said, I'm here in the Panhandle. Is there a reason for that? Are there any difference in your bees and being able to produce here in the Florida area? Or is it just there's no one that's gone through your system?
The ones that's gone through my system, L. Taylor is in Tennessee, and Mary Harbage, she's up in there in Tennessee. I've got 3 or 4 more there. Mark is in Virginia, and Pat's in Virginia.
But there's no one below Atlanta.
I am working on 2 students from one's Fort Lauderdale, one's out in the Panhandle. I don't know, it might have been you that I talked to on the phone, but they haven't made their mind up. You know, it's like if you want to swim, don't stand on the dock and think about swimming. Jump in the water, get into it.
Well, that's normally what I do. No, that was not me.
Okay. We got 3 or 4 in Texas. We get new people coming in all the time. We had one in Northeast Alabama. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's selling bees. I think Darlene bought her nukes from him. If you're worried about selling them, Jamie, come over here. And he was
I wasn't worried about selling them. It's my lack of inexperience and my not complete knowledge of the business that I'm discussing this with you. Is I didn't know if your particularly strain, for lack of a better word, of bees maybe didn't do as well. Because I see from Atlanta north, there's a good population that way, but Atlanta south, there's no one. So that was just my generalized question, nothing derogatory of any kind.
Well, if you're debating it, the best thing to do without investing anything is go to some local bee clubs, talk to people in that area and see. There's quite a few people that sell bees in Florida. And check their regulations.
Yeah, if there's any left in this area.
Well, I mean, you know, every area is opened up, and when you got the mail service, you can ship bees. We ship them all the way into Washington State. We ship them all over the place, you know. And I don't know, truthfully, if my bees is any different than anybody else's bees. It's maintaining the stock is one thing. Get a good line. I mean, I've tried several different races of bees. The one I'm on now is gentle. You see, when I work my bees, I don't wear a bee suit. If you're new, you're going to wear a bee suit for a while. You're going to get stung. You know, bees have stingers, so it's just getting used to them. I've tried stocks that are very aggressive, and I can't handle it because I teach here, and I have people that are afraid of bees to start with, or they have kids that are starting, and they don't want to get the first day out there ate up. So whether you buy bees from me or, you know, anybody else, check the stock, see how they work their bees. If I'm a new beekeeper and I go to someone's bee yard to pick bees up and they come out looking like they're going to space all wrapped up and taped up and everything, I mean, I'm going to have second thoughts on it.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, over to Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Fly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Just want to give a shout out, Don, that let everybody know that the bees we got from you last spring, they have done excellent this year, and we're gonna looking forward to doing about 250 splits on our first split, and we'll have nukes for sale, and they're really looking good. I've got a few videos on my Facebook page, Sourwood Branch Bee Farm, and shows the gentleness of the bees, just like you were saying. Very good bees, easy to work with. We really enjoy them. And Lazarus said he was going to be able to get us on the website this week. So our information will be there. Anybody wants to give us a call, order some packs of them nukes, we'll have them ready probably sometime in May, early June. That's all I got.
Okay. Down to Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I agree with Don. I mean, you can always sell more bees than you can make. I've been doing it a while now, and you just can't make enough. One thing I would say to the newbies, go into it a little bit on the slow side, because you're going to have to wear that dumb T-shirt once in a while. We all did. And if you go into it and you make the mistakes early, it costs you a lot less money. You learn from them mistakes. And you go in it big time and you lose 400 or 500 hives, it gets in your pocketbook real quick. But and the first year, nobody knows you. You may not be able to sell a lot the first year, but if you get a good product, they keep coming back. I'm sold out all the way on Queens all the way into the 1st of June right now. I mean, I just can't keep up. And I run a lot of hives. But that's all I got.
Okay.
Well, Joe come down here I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago, and he already was established. Now, you can ask him if getting to take the classes and getting through the keepers, if it's helped him any. I mean, talk to my students. I mean, there's dozens of them out there, you know. Don't take my word for it, you know.
Okay. And over to Anthony. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I was just going to tag on to what Dawn was saying, and what Joe just said is, you know, for Jason down there in Florida, it sounded to me like he's wondering, you know, if I get into this, what's the market like? And like Dawn and Joe just said, you won't be able to make bees fast enough to keep up, and you won't be able to make boxes fast enough to keep up. So if you're interested in getting into it, I wouldn't hold back, worried about if there's a market. And like Joe May just said, Joe has hundreds of hives. You know, get into it slow, get started, and then you'll see what it's like. But you sound like you already have a good background with what you're doing in the fish. You can do the same thing with bees, and you won't be able to make them fast enough. That's all I got for now.
All right. And the woman of the hour, Darlene. Go ahead.
Okay, y'all have had a year and a half off now. It's over with. Time to get back to work. But are there new people here? No.
Lots of new people.
But I started off with 2 hives, and I had 4 months to watch Don's videos. This was, what, 2 years ago? And I participated in the chats. We had gone to the symposium in Alabama. That's going to be this next weekend. We don't have to go. We know more than they do. Thank you. And it's true. But we were going to stop by there, but we don't have time. But I will say that from engaging in these chats, I had 4 months. I watched all of Don's videos. When I got my bees, they were breeder stock from Don, that Jamie, Fork Mountain Bees. That's where I got mine from. And I had no problem working them. I always wore my glasses. I always wore a hat. But other than that, I didn't have any problems. And they were looking good too. You know, they were real happy, but then we had to start leaving on the weekends, and then they clear cut in 3 counties around here, and then they sprayed. And if I had bees right now, I have a list this long of people that would buy bees from me. And because everybody lost their bees. Everybody.
See, there's the market.
That's it. But it's, you know, it's not a perfect world. Now we have another piece of property which I'm sitting at. I don't know if you can tell, it's kind of cleaned up here. I'm not sitting with the goats, but we want to bring the bees over to here now, and because we'll have better. It'll be easier to do the bees over here than it would be over on the other property. I'm thinking, but you know, so I'll probably be begging for bees, and I'll see how we do. So Jason, you down there in Florida, the Panhandle, I'm up here in East Central Alabama. See, I'm going to be looking for bees from Don's stock. But anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Well, Jason has an advantage of being in Florida. I used to work my bees in Valdosta, 20 miles from the Florida line. And if I was down there right now with this weather, I would be grafting right now. They're 2 months at least ahead. And down in Florida, we used to have bees over in Lakeland and then Okeechobee over there. And you don't stop making bees. I mean, December, January, that's when you really get out there and work. And then by February, you have nukes you can bring to Georgia and sell, or sell in Tennessee. So I would, you know, if you don't want to invest any money, find you a local bee club or some local beekeeper, hang around with them a little bit, get a little experience, find out that's what you want to do.
Okay. And over to Mary. Go ahead, Mary. Oh, hold on, I can't unmute you. You gotta do it on your end.
I think I did it.
There you go.
All right. I have a question about the ProVap. All right. This is my first year using it.
Okay.
First time I go round in September, I had no issues whatsoever. We had a warm spell just last Sunday in the 60s. I went out and checked everything, gave them a treatment. I had that cap blow off on me twice. Luckily, it didn't spray me because I was off to the side filling the next hive cup up. But when I took it out of the hive, it appeared that the oxalic acid was clogged at the very tip of the nozzle. So I unclogged it, made sure I had good airflow, and I did a couple more hives, and then it did it again. So I'm wondering what I'm doing wrong or what I need to do to correct that.
I got a ProVap, and it's like a lot of the products don't give very good instructions, but I'll run over it quick. If you're treating in the front of the hive, it's about as easy as, I don't like to drill holes in the back on the bottom board. But what I usually do is take the vaporizer, turn it upside down, put the cap on top of your beehive, and then push it down. Be sure to wear a glove. And then take it over in front of the hive, and as you turn it over, stick it in the entrance and tap the lid about twice with your hand. That gets all the stuff down, and it'll vaporize right out. And watch your temperature. When the temperature starts to rise up above 244, then you can, by that time, fill another cap up. Best thing they don't tell you is I would have 4 caps. And if your husband can keep 2 hives or 3 hives ahead of you, and then be sure you're wearing that mask.
Mm-hmm.
But you shouldn't have any trouble unless that nozzle's clogged up. Put a piece of wire through it. Make sure it's good and hot before you put your crystals in.
Okay.
Have temperature up to 240 when you put the crystals in?
Yes, yes. And I'm doing what you do, but the only difference is I have drilled holes in the back with the golf tees, and I've been putting them through the back bottom board.
If you put the vaporizer upside down on top of the lid and get your cap on that way and take your hand and tap it down, make sure it's on good because it's got a O-ring in there. Make sure it's on good, and then don't turn it over until you're ready to get it into the hole, or put it in the hole, then turn it over.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing, Don. Yeah.
If you're having the cap blow off, call Larry up and explain to him what's going on, because I know several people has contacted me about them. One guy had a bad readout on his digital thing, and Larry replaced it. So tell him exactly what it's doing. You might have a obstruction in your pipe that goes into the hive. That's what it sounds like. But I don't know how it would get obstructed.
Well, that's what it was acting like. There was something, and I thought maybe there was a trick everybody was using to keep it from clogging up.
No, they're pretty much straightforward. They work great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Joe May, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to talk to Mary about that. I've had mine do that several times, and it does. It clogs up. It builds up the acid crystals in the tube because the tube's cooler than the other. And I have found that when I get done using it, while it's still hot, I pour water in the thing, and it squirts out that and cleans everything. Just looks like it's brand spanking new, and I've not had any trouble with it doing that since I started doing it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Okay. Back over to Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a question on the definition of a yard, your bee yard. I would assume the bee yard is the place where you're going to have a large, where you keep most of your bees. You have several yards you talk about. And so I guess that if you're in the production of bees, that you're more capable to have a large yard to keep more bees than if you were in the honey production, because you can only keep X amount of bees in one location if you're in the honey because of the forage that would be surrounding those particular bees. Is that a correct assumption?
Well, there's a lot of people have different answers for that. We run probably between 50 to 100 8-frame hives, or a combination of 8s and 5s to a yard. Now, mating yards, we usually run 50 8-frame hives and maybe 350 mating boxes. That's a different scenario, but you know, there's some people say you can only have so many hives there. You know, if that was true, you know, if you look at my yard, and there's many a person's been here, I run 200 to 500 boxes here, and I'll make an excess of honey sometime, and I'm not even wanting the stuff. So bees will fly out 5 miles.
But how big is your yard?
I got 6 acres.
Okay. Well, I live on 40 acres, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, There's people that have 100, 200 acres, and I've seen them set 50 and then go back 10 acres and set 50 there. Sometimes in the orange groves, they'll get 250 hives and they'll spread them out in 4 different locations.
Because what I was concerned about is I'm surrounded by pastures. I'm surrounded by cattle. To the west, I have a couple thousand acres of cattle pastures. To the north, I have several hundred acres, about a mile down the road, of cotton. To the south is nothing, just woods. And then to the east, I have the swamp. And then I'm a mile from the Apalachicola River, and all the tupelo trees.
All right. What you have to figure out, what are you wanting to do? Do you want to sell bees or do you want to sell honey?
Bees.
Okay.
But that's what I was wondering, that in the production of bees, you can concentrate a lot more bees in one particular area because it's more of an intensive production because you're feeding them compared to a honey production facility or yard, because you don't want as many because you need that forage area to produce the honey.
Well, there's a lot of people look at things different than what I look at. I'm not in bees for honey. So I feed my bees basically year round. So, the time it takes you to pull honey, you're losing where you could be making splits. It's, that's why you have to figure out, do you want to make honey or do you want to make a lot of bees? Now, if you're wanting to make half and half, what you have to do is run double or triples. And then the yards you don't get around often enough, you're going to have to, you'll spend more time hauling boxes of honey back to get them extracted and wasting time where you could be making splits. I mean, you have to go what you want to do. I mean, there's people that's all they want to do is honey. So they'll spend more time hauling boxes back. The more honey that you want to make, you got to have bigger equipment. And then once you get to the point where you're getting bigger equipment, you got to start thinking on help. And you're not going to get dependable help. I don't care what you pay them. You just can't get people to work bees.
Can't get people to work bees either.
Well, I mean, once you start getting into,
you get people to work anymore.
When we used to work orange groves, we'd go down there with 200 hives and we'd pull 7, 8 barrels of honey at a time. I mean, you got to have a truck to haul it. You got to have a loader to load it. Then you got to have a machine big enough. You can start out with a 20 frame extractor, but you're going to waste more time loading it, whether you get 120 a frame extractor, an automatic uncapper. See, the more you get into honey, the bigger that you got to spend, more money. You can do more by yourself raising honey. I mean, raising the bees and queens. So you can make as many as you can work fast.
With this huge demand that's going on this year in particular, what's the likelihood of me even be able to get any bees? Or any bees of yours, or because everybody says that what was his name? Joe, is that him? He says he's sold out. So it seems like everybody's sold out. So what's the likelihood of even being able to get into it?
Well, there you go. People sold out. You get into it. I mean, we'll send you business. I mean, right now, if you had nukes, I'd come down and pick them up because I don't have nukes ready to go. See, you're already 2 months ahead of me. You're already got good weather down there.
Yeah, but for the ability for me to buy bees this year doesn't seem possible because everybody's out. So there's such a high demand that it's going to be later into the year.
It's called supply and demand. That's why you have to run more yards. Right now, we probably could get a few packages more in March. But if you want 100, 200 packages, let us know. I mean, right now, April looks pretty good. You should have had your bees in February, basically, if you could have got them. But I don't know if anybody sells bees until, I think the earliest you could probably get any kind of packages would be the middle of March, if you know the people. Because a lot of these people that's selling bees are going to sell to their major buyers. The ones that are buying, some people think if they buy 50 packages, that's a big order. Most big orders are 500 to 1,000 packages. See, so the bigger you get, you're going to have some help. And you could probably shake yourself. If you want to shake packages now, That's the next thing. You're going to have to buy the lumber, or you're going to have to saw it yourself. And then you have to make the packages, or you have to buy the packages. If you buy, we used to use, they call bee buses, and it's a commercially plastic box. My son likes them. I don't like them. I like the wooden boxes. The advantage of that plastic box is some people want to buy 3 pounds of bees with an extra queen. Those boxes are set up to put 2 queens in them. So that's the thing. People take it and buy a 3-pound package and make 2 splits out of it. I like the wooden boxes. A wooden box, if you buy them now, I think you can get them for around $3.50. The plastic ones are around $7 now. But the plastic boxes, they ship a lot better, I think, than the wood boxes with a screen on. We've shipped a bunch of them out to Washington State and not had one complaint. Sometimes you ship boxes with the screen on and they get poked. The screen gets poked, the bee gets out. We had problems years ago, sent them to a post office, and you sent a pallet full of bees in there, and the post office sees 3 bees, they start shrink wrapping the whole pallet, and then you lost your whole order.
Joe May's showing off the package, the plastic.
There, he's got one, yeah.
Carrier. Okay. Answer your question for now, Jason?
Yep.
Okay. Over to Ernest. Go ahead, Ernest. Nope, still muted. Hang on. Nope, try it on your end. I can't unmute you.
John's probably got him muted.
You got it now?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, I wanted to say something to Murray there. I have the same problem with a Provac, and my solution was I have one of those instant-on torches. I carry it with me in the yard, and I just hit that end of that just slightly with the torch. I don't overheat it, but that's enough to keep that end. The end don't get hot enough. They should have a design where the heating element went all the way out to the end somehow. So if you put it in a hole in the back, the wood itself cools it off, and then that goes out there and it crystallizes up again. So that torch keeps me moving. I can go right on through the yard and don't have a problem stopping and trying to use pipe cleaners or whatever to clean the hole out, you know. So if you have one of those instant torches, you know, you don't have to light it or anything. You just pull the trigger, and that works fine for me. So that's all I have there, Don.
Okay. Did you learn something coming down here, and you have problems selling bees?
No, I don't have no problem. Yeah, and I
just
learned
gotta make your mind up to get in it, right?
Yeah, I've been down a couple times, and I talked to my son the other day, and he sounds like he's interested in maybe coming again. So if we could get Brother John here to go, I don't know. He's smiling. He keeps thinking about it, but you got to get off of the fence and do it.
He's afraid them bees gonna get in his beard.
Yeah, yeah, you'll learn a lot. I mean, you know, I can't begin to explain what you learn, but once you're there, it's just a hands-on experience, and it's well worth the trip. I appreciate everything you do there, Don.
Okay.
Okay, got no other questions right now, so I'll take some questions from the website. Rose wants to know, when splitting, is it best to leave the queen behind as opposed to moving her to the new split?
I always move the queen myself, because you're going to get forage and bees come back to the original location. That's what I found works the best for me.
Okay. Oh, see, now everybody puts their hands up. So
Here you go.
to Jonathan. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, Don, what do you, what's the time of the year when people are all looking to get their packages? Because up here in Northern Illinois, we can't really start making queens until like late April, maybe early May.
Well, I mean, people want them yesterday. You know, that's the thing. So the quicker you can get them, the better off you are. If you have overwintered nukes up there, you could sell all you have. But if you're saying when is the best time for you to split up there, best thing to do probably, unless you have, you know, a little experience, is buy mated queens and split from that. You know, make your splits that way. The cells is unreliable. I've talked about Easter several times on chats. I've made a bunch of splits and I have years of experience, and we had 3-4 weeks of nice weather the month before Easter, and I made 75 splits. I lost every single one of them because we had a record Easter freeze. So I think my advice to people is, if you don't want to gamble, wait till after Easter.
All right, because my thing is, being up in northern Illinois, is am I going to be able to get started early enough making splits to still have demand for them later in the summer?
Well, I mean, you can. You know, beekeeping, first of all, is going to be a gamble. So if you're making early splits, it's always going to be a gamble. If I was in Illinois and I want to make splits early, I believe I'd order my queens out of Hawaii and get them in 1st of March.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't take a chance with cells or trying to get mated. First of all, you're not going to have enough drones. See, we can start grafting and have our grafts ready March 1st, but we ain't going to have enough drones. We have to go South Georgia, shake bees, bring up about 25 packages that has a lot of drones in. And then by the time those drones mate with the queens, the grafts that we got here, we'll start getting mature enough drones in our hives.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed up here. We really don't start getting a bunch of drones until almost early May.
Well, one thing you can do, sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. What would work this year might not work next year, is I would run your hives with 2 frames of that green drone comb, and I would feed them all the time. I'd put a sugar board on top and feed them. The more you feed them, you know, they're going to make enough drones, so they won't kick as many drones out.
Yeah, I got sugar boards on all of them now, but we got 4 inches of snow today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to work with the weather. That's all you can do.
All right. Thanks,
there's one of my students came down here about 10 years ago, and he's north of Chicago. Now, he used to come down and buy packages early as he could get them, and he would haul them back and make splits just for the drones and to make splits out of them. That's an option you can do. You know, if you can get someone to ship you packages early, do that. Now, that would be someone in Florida. Contact someone in Florida, and you probably could get some right now. Because I've had several people send me pictures of their boxes that are ready to go now in Florida.
It just seems like the profit margin might be really slim if I got to buy a package to make a bunch of splits.
Well, I mean, any business you're going to invest in, you know, the worst thing that you're going to do is lose is, you know, your time. You can always get more bees if you make a mistake. It's going to be a learning curve. That's why I'm doing chats. I made so many mistakes. I'm trying to save people from making the same mistakes, you know. There's nobody out there that wants to take the time to teach you how to make a living. You are going to be my competitor. So most people thinking is, why would I teach you to take my business? That's the thinking. I mean, I'm serious. There hasn't been a student here that I hadn't shared everything I could share with them. I can give you more information in one day than you can absorb.
Oh yeah, you've been very helpful.
All I can say is take a chance or move south. That's what I did.
Yeah, I've been thinking I need to move south.
If bees is going to be your livelihood, you know, that's what if it was me and I had to do over, I'd move into southern Alabama. There's a lot of farmland down there. The land's cheap, good raising of bees. Taxes, I think it's a little cheaper than Georgia.
Okay, answer your question, Jonathan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And over to John. Go ahead, John. No,
He's still muted, huh?
Can you hear me?
There you go.
All right, I finally figured out this technology. Hi, everybody. Hey, I have a couple questions, and I think you kind of answered it as I was waiting. My question initially was, to be a viable bee vendor, you have to have operations in the deep south, because if you're up here in the north, you're missing half of the season for the southern states before we can really produce bees up here. So you said you moved south for that reason. So if you wanted to be a viable bee trader or seller here in the north, you're going to have to partner with somebody down in the south or have land yourself down there.
It would depend on your definition, basically, because there's 2 or 3 of my students up there. I've got 2 or 3 in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
I mean, you're not going to do the volumes that we can do, but going your first year, you're going to stay pretty busy. And right now, you say you got snow out there. You got a building, build boxes. You ain't going to have time once you start working bees. You're not going to have time. You know, you probably seen Earnest. He's probably working night and day. He's not catching up.
Yeah, no, he's always has that light burning down there in the shop.
I mean, moving south is fine. I mean, you can make the money if you can build the boxes and work the hives, or if you can't work them all, have enough help.
Okay.
Selling bees is the least of your problems.
Okay. Now, the other question I have is, I've been seeing a lot of stuff basically out of Europe where they're trying to use technology to control the environment for the bees. I've been contacted by a company. You can monitor your hive via your smartphone. So they're now doing solar powered stats for you, and you can turn on a fan if it reaches a certain humidity. Do you see technology in the beekeeping industry, the technology becoming more hands-off and let the machines do the work as far as monitoring hives? Do you ever see a day?
I think you're going to have people that think they're beekeepers that want to sit in their office. You know, the highest technology I have is bricks. I can mark my hives with bricks. I've had people try to tell me about hive monitoring, hive tracks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Why spend money? You know, I keep preaching, keep it simple. Gizmos, gadgets, the only thing you're going to keep bees is with your head and your hands.
Okay.
I mean, every day somebody comes up a way, you know, to get more money from the beekeeper. There's so many gadgets on hives now that don't make sense anymore. If you got 2 hives and you want to spend $1,000 to play with them and take pictures at night and everything else, that's the thing to do. But if you want to make a living at it, you ain't gonna buy all them gadgets. Just tin alone on beehives. I stopped using tin 40 some years ago. My bees live. I mean, I don't do a lot of things. I got rid of my inner covers because that way I got rid of my ants, roaches, and hive beetles. Everything I try to teach is common sense. You know, if it don't make sense to you, you know, don't even do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was the questions I had for now.
All right.
Okay, over to Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, also, I forgot to mention that I was able to get some queens order from Jason, and so he has some more of a northern type bees, so those people that say they don't want to buy southern bees to go up north, but we'll have some of those coming. And Jonathan, if you go down to Don's and get with Don, he'll show you how to make 2 boxes out of that package. And then he'll show you how to have a box of bees going when that customer leaves out of that same spot. And Jason, if you're worried about getting into the bees, you'll be ahead of the game down there in Florida, because you can have stuff so early. And Don told me when I came down, he said, "Why don't you move to Florida?" And I can't move to Florida right yet, but anyway, and good to see Darlene back. Just wanted to say that. That's all I have.
Good.
Okay, over to Anthony. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that John was saying when he said about, you know, being up north and being down south at the same time, I saw Joe May raising his hand like, yeah, that's a good idea. And I think a lot of us know the guy, Richard Bittner. He's in the group, and he's in some other groups, and that's what Richard does. Richard does the summer in Ohio, and then he makes a couple of trips and he brings his bees to Florida. And he's pretty much strictly in the honey business. But that's what he does. You know, he runs all plastic frames and everything because he's in the honey business. So that works out well for him. And my bees right now are doing very well. I got 2 new queens probably close to 2 months ago. And so my hives are doing really well right now. For the last 2 weeks, they're bringing in a lot of pollen. And the queens are laying well. I got one that's like doing wall to wall. And another queen, she's marked, so I know that's the one I've had since April of 2017. And I don't know how old she was when I got her in April of 2017, but she's still laying great. But what there's no drones. I don't have any drones. I have like a few in the box, but I don't see any drones that have been laid. I put a new frame of foundation in each box. I put a full sheet of wax in each box. And one box, they built it out in like a week. They built that whole frame out in a week. And there's a lot of drone cell on the bottom of that frame, but she hasn't laid any eggs in there yet. And for like the new people that don't know, I'm actually in Thailand. I've lived in Thailand for the last 13 years. And so right now in January here, I think my January is probably equivalent to your March. April is the hottest month of the year here. So from now till April, we'll be building up, you know, into what you're used to in your summer from, you know, May to August. So I guess right now they don't need drones because they're not laying them, but pretty soon I hope to see some. I'm doing pretty good right now. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, you know, area now, Joe is up in Indiana. Ernest, he's in Pennsylvania. So, you know, you're going to make bees, don't get me wrong, but to make a lot of bees, you need that extra time. So moving south, I mean, that might be one alternative. If you're in Florida, I mean, you should be making bees 12 months of the year, even if you don't have a honey flow, because a lot of times people say you got to have a honey flow. You can artificially feed pollen, and that's what we'll do in our mating yards. We'll take a bucket, cut a slot in like a mailbox, and drill a hole and hang it from a tree. So that it's basically hanging in a tree sideways. And then you have open pollen. And then you don't run the risk of getting all these hive beetles into the hive. You have a constant supply of pollen. The next thing you do is you keep feed going. More feed and pollen, then they make bees. That's the 2 things that stimulate them. Now, I don't like to promote people's products, but there's a lot of bags of pollen substitute out there. But I'll say this, Mega Bee, for the dollar wise, is worth 10 times more than anybody else is out there that I've seen. And I've tried pollen substitutes, many different kinds. I've made my own. Mega Bee has got trace minerals and vitamins. It's got everything a bee needs if it was on an isolated island to survive. So I'm just throwing that out. If you're going to put your money in pollen substitute, that's a good thing to buy. Mega Bee. I think Man Lake and Daydet sells it. I don't know about the other ones. I don't normally do business with too many of them.
Okay. Joe May?
Yeah, back to the guy in Illinois. I'm up here close to him, and I know I got 6 inches of snow on the ground right now. Your nukes is going to be later in the year. You'll be lucky to sell this year's nukes before first, second week in June and that. Or you raise bees this year for next year, and then you take a chance on losing bees through the winter in smaller hives, which I've got several single deep 5 frames out there. They're doing just fine. I mean, but you'll lose some bees in the winter that small. Or you do like I do this year. I've got I took 60 hives to southern Mississippi, so I'm going to start making bees in second week in February. That's all I got to say.
that's another point there. Now, you don't have to move south. If you can get a hold of people that's in Florida or South Georgia and take hives there and run double deeps. That way you can go down once a month or every 6 weeks to check on them, make sure that everything's doing good. Then you have a start. If you're running the Florida line, you probably can make your splits in January, leave them sit for 3 to 4 weeks, and then take them up north and sell them. And basically, you're out of the gate ahead as everybody else. But if you're not selling bees, Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, North Carolina, most pollinators are paying $50,000, $60,000 on a 10,000 acre farm for pollination. And that's only like 2 to 3 weeks. Down in middle Georgia, if you can get on a cotton field, cotton honey is good if you want to make honey, and it'll build your bees up fast. Florida, if you can get around the citrus or the truck farms that's not using pesticide, is another option. In beekeeping, there's a lot of avenues you can go down. You have to figure out what you want to do and head that way. Bees, pollinating honey, there's money in all of it.
Okay. All right, over to Virgil. Hang on, can't unmute you. Try it on your end. There you go.
You gotta see.
You're on.
Okay, I just wanted to tell Don thanks. We started out with 3 hives last year, and he was working, and I didn't want to be around him, but I built him up to 13 hives over the summer, Don, so thanks.
Well, thank you for joining the chat.
I guess what I want to know is I've never fed because it's my first year getting into it. And we're in Ashland County, Ohio. I think you said you were from Brunswick before.
Mm-hmm.
When would I start feeding any pollen patties?
I personally don't like pollen patties, but if you're going to do the pollen patties, if you weigh them out to 1 pound, roll them out to where they're thin as a hamburger and cut them up into 1 or 2 inch squares and put them on the top of a hive, I would use a little bit of wax paper under them to hold them and support them. Because you want to make sure you're not going to have an opportunity for hive beetles to multiply real fast.
Yeah, and I'd be fine with even the like you said, hanging the pollen up would be a better option.
I like that the best. You might lose some to bees in the neighborhood, but to me, my time is worth more than the pollen itself. And if I have to go in there and clean hives out that's got beetle damage, I mean, you're losing too much time and money.
Yeah. So when would you say that we should start putting the pollen out?
I probably wouldn't do it until March, 2nd, 3rd week in March, because right now, even if you're getting a little bit of warm weather, I know Pat's got red buds blooming up there, and actually her red buds are blooming or are budding up. Mine haven't even budded up. And if they bud too early, and then in February, if you get a freezing, that's your main honey flow, and you can lose it. So never put all your eggs in one basket.
Well, yeah, this year we've had it crazy. I mean, we've got dandelions that have flowered out here, and we just got the snow today. It's really our first cold spell. But I think last year when we got the 3 hives started, we didn't feed, and I think we probably could have been a lot further ahead. My goal this year would be between 50 and 100 by splitting, like you said, and that's all we did. I just kept splitting what we had.
Are you running 10s or 8s?
I was running 10s, but I'm going to 8s this year.
Okay.
And everything I split, I was splitting into nuke boxes, like you said, and they build up like crazy.
Oh, yeah. One thing too is this year we're building more 5-frame boxes with a divider in it. That way we're using old political signs in a divider in the middle. You just take your saw blade and saw you a line down there and cut that political sign to where it comes to the top of the hive. That way, when you put your lid on, both sides is isolated. You could raise 2 queens at a time, and the heat transfer from one side to the other is your main thing for them building.
Okay.
You can always pull a queen out of one side, make another split with that, and put an extra frame in there, and then run it as a 5-frame.
Yeah, I mean, I was scared to death when I did it, but like you said, if you don't try, you don't learn. And I was clueless when I started. And everything that we've done, I've followed from you, and it's just worked perfect, luckily. I mean,
I try to give you information that is simple, that is going to actually work. There's too many people that like to take an idea and give you so much technical stuff behind it, you're confused before you start.
Yeah.
Bees, they do the basic thing of multiplying and storing honey. So if you go on that premise, and they're just like kids, you got to keep them warm or they're not going to thrive. You got to keep them fed so they don't get hungry.
I was surprised to see how fast they did. I mean, like I heard you say that you're really going to have to watch them. And we did. I mean, it would just seem to explode overnight sometimes. It just, boom, they were there.
Well, you can take a hive and basically you could probably split it 8 to 15 times in 1 year, providing you feeding it and make sure it's got pollen when there's no pollen coming in.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, Don, is about the foundations. I mean, we don't have anything real close to, we've either got the right cell or we've got the wax with the wire. Is the wire the better option, or is it better to just do the starter strips like you said?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. Are you planning on cutting queen cells out?
I hadn't got to that point. I was just pulling the queen and letting them go once I had the queen cell. But well, yeah,
if you're pulling the queen and then making a split that way, the hive that you pull the queen out of, they're going to make several frames of queen cells, right?
Right.
Okay, so you're either going to lose all of them or you take a knife and cut them out. My findings over the years is they always make the best queen cells right over the top of the wire. So that's why I started not using foundation with wire, and I use fishing line for the support. But you can put a starter strip in there, and if you don't have a starter strip, you can take the wedge and turn it sideways and take some old beeswax and rub it a little bit. Put it between 2 frames, it's draw it out, and they'll draw it down fine. They'll make what they need. If they want more drones, they'll make more drones. If they want worker cells, they'll make them. But when you do that, make sure you're feeding them or you've got a good honey flow. If you put it in there and there's no honey flow and you're not feeding them, more than likely they're going to make all kind of crazy comb in there or burr comb and stuff. It looks like they've been on drugs.
Well, we did, like you said, we made the bucket feeders.
Right.
There was stuff blooming, but not a whole lot, and it seemed to work. But I don't like the plastic foundation if we don't have to, and I haven't been able to find any foundation without the wire around here.
Where do you live?
In Ashland, Ohio.
Greg Burns is coming down and picking up a bunch of packages. Now he's on my webpage. Find out if he'll bring you up some. I charge $2 a sheet. I'm not promoting to sell it because I use all I can make, but I can sell you 10 or 20 sheets, if that's what you want.
Okay.
He's down, I think, Chillicothe, Ohio. He's got his address there. It's on my webpage.
Okay.
Greg Burns.
All right, we'll look him up. Well, we'll let somebody else take a chance here, but thanks a lot for everything, Don, because we'd be clueless without you.
Well, just keep watching the videos. I mean, everything's on them videos. Cutting them cells out, you could take one hive and you could have enough cells in there to make 15, 20 splits at one time.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and it's perfect if you don't answer when I get into a panic mode on something, I send a message or put something on the page, and he or Anthony or Patricia's always gotten right back, and that makes a big difference too.
Well, that's one good thing I have is I got moderators that can help me on the page because I don't carry a cell phone and I don't text. So if you was to text me, you're never going to get an answer because I just don't do it. And I work in the bee yard or I work in the shop, so I don't carry a phone. Now, if you need to get a hold of me in emergency, you can always call my house phone or call Steven. And sometimes Steven, he's got his phone with him. He's the younger generation. He's on the phone more than I am.
I'd like to run it over, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys have been great. Everybody on there is just real helpful, and nobody's been, rude or anything but helpful. And it means a lot because around here, you ask somebody and they stick their nose in the air and they turn around and walk away from you like, no, I don't want to. And we tried for a couple of years to get help, and you can't find it.
Well, that's why I try to take the time to do that, because I had that same thing pulled on me when I went to bee clubs in Ohio, and I made a lot of mistakes listening to people I thought was experienced, and they gave me misinformation to sabotage me. That's jealousy, I guess. I don't know what it is. I'll go out of my way to help someone.
If you can help me do it, because my activity with the bees was to sit in the truck and put the window down a 1/4 inch and tell him yes or no. But then it was thrown in my face every time he was gone. There was a swarm, there was this, there was that. And I figured, well, I guess it's time, and it's work. So thank you so much.
Have you some extra frames, have you some extra nuke boxes, because, you know, it goes back to basics. Bees multiply and they store honey. So if you got boxes and you're not working them, they're going to swarm. So have boxes to put them in.
Oh yeah, well, they weren't even my swarms. It was just, I'm driving down the road and there's a swarm, and now I've learned that once I see them, I can't just ignore it. I got to go back and get them.
Carry a box or two in your trunk.
Oh, I do now. I definitely do, but I think the Amish guy's getting tired of seeing me until we can get our equipment set up to make our own boxes. I'm like over there every day. I think he sees me more than his wife. I need more. But you guys have a good day, and thanks for everything that all of you have done.
You're welcome.
Okay. Over to Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if anybody has any doubt your bees can't handle the winter, send them up. I got about 18 inches of snow on them, and this is the second winter of some of your queens have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
I got into one the other day, and it still had seven good frames solid of brood. And
that's not a paid endorsement, is it?
Well, it's a free endorsement.
There you go.
And John, most of them around here are getting their packages in May. Yeah, we run late. But if you can get your packages up and running by May, by the time they requeen or you get some queens, you'll be in pretty good shape, generally speaking. But I can't keep up. I just mentioned Don's name, and I quit taking orders for nukes. That's all I can sell if I'm going to increase very much this year. But
that's what I tell students, you know, and people. I don't know what it is, but if you're one of my students and you get on that page and you can't sell bees, you're in the house and you're locked up and your hands is tied and you can't get out. I mean, that's all I can say.
Yeah, well, I have a variety of bees here, but I'm just letting you know that yours does make it. Haven't had any problem. And you can have the snow. I got into them last week, and I had 1 yard that we've been in a drought last year. Had I not gone into it last week when it was up in the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
I'd had a bad start for this year. They were all out of their sugar cake and real light.
Yeah.
So do what you got to do up north, but they do all right. All right, thank you. All right.
And over to Patricia. Go ahead, Pat.
Hey, everybody. I just had a comment for the guys up north. In my experience, overwintered nukes and bees sell at a higher price, and you can't make enough. If you can hold back this year enough to overwinter to hedge your spring with plans for when you're going to sell your regular nukes, people are jumping up and down for bees. I'm not exaggerating. And so plan on how many nukes you want to go into spring with and overwinter them. They overwinter really well. And if you overwinter them in a 10 frame and split them into 2, keep one back for your later nukes and sell one as your overwintered nuke. I mean, it's a hot commodity. You're missing it there. I can't sell enough of them.
Yeah, they're worth
I could have more.
$50, $75 on top of whatever a nuke is going for.
Yep.
Easily.
Yeah. Yep. You just have to do a little planning up front, and you might want to hold back stock this year so that you can prepare for that first winter. But once you get into the rotation, you could do overwintered and spring nukes, and you wouldn't be able to keep up with the orders. Overwintered nukes are a hot ticket, especially local bees. That's the thing. Overwintered means that it's overwintered in your area, your weather conditions, and people really are interested in that. Sustainable beekeeping. That's it.
Okay. Over to Paul. Go ahead. Nope, still muted. Still muted. Hang on. There you go.
All right. Don, if one of your hives loses a queen during the winter, what are the chances of that hive surviving?
You're breaking up, but
Yeah,
if the hive loses a queen in the winter, you shouldn't be in there looking for the queen right now.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, you know, would the chances of the hive surviving be, I mean, would it survive still?
If you had a good queen going into winter, you shouldn't have a problem. The biggest problem people have is this is the time of the year people get antsy. They got to get in their hive and they can't see through the veil and they bump that queen. If they've made it this far, chances are they got a queen, you know.
Yeah.
Some races of bees, their laying pattern slows way down January and February until the weather starts breaking a little bit, then they start to multiply. But most people are doing more harm getting in there too early.
Yeah, I won't be able to get into mine until April at least, I would say.
Right now, I would say if you went in the hive in the next 2 weeks and you thought you didn't have a queen, I would get a hold of someone out of Hawaii and have them ship you a queen. Because I don't think you're going to find any queens anywhere at least till the 1st of March. I know even people I have contact with in Florida, they have them now. But would they sell them to you? No. They're going to sell them to you now. They're making splits.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and last one for the night, Philip. Go ahead, Philip.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
Hey, real quick. I had a couple nice days. I'm up here in Michigan, Jacksonville, southern side. They've ate through a good portion of sugar because I put the newspaper down, did the sugar ring around the inside. And then I put some pollen patty in there because that's, I mean, it's into January now, so they were going through that. If they've ate the sugar, does that mean they're out of honey? Because I mean, I've got the bees look like they're about 4 to 5 frames cluster. It's a good size cluster. It's one of my 2 that were doing really well going in.
Have you lifted the back of the hive up?
What's that?
Have you lifted the back of the hive up?
I did, and it seemed like it was pretty decent.
Well, then you're worrying for no reason. You'll have gray hairs for no reason at all.
Oh, I already got them, plenty.
If you got weight to that hive, you got, okay, you know, unless it's piled up full of snow, you got some honey in there. They're going to naturally, when the temperature comes up, if you got sugar there and there's nothing to forage on, that's like putting a bowl of candy in front of a kid and walking away and saying, now don't eat it. You just had dinner.
Okay.
They're going to keep getting it and storing it.
Okay. Yeah, because they look pretty good. I mean, it's a good sized cluster. Doesn't mean they're going to make it, but I think they got a pretty good shot.
In Michigan, I'd be very careful putting pollen patties in there now. I would wait at least another 5 weeks.
Okay.
Because if they start to spread out on you and then you get a cold snap, you're probably going to get one. You're going to lose everything on the outside of that cluster. I've been down that road. I've seen it happen myself here.
Okay.
Anxious, you know, you get anxious, you want to get it started, you're going to back it up.
Yep, I just, I was afraid of, because it's going to get single digits for a couple of days, I think, or in teens next week. And I put it right on the, basically almost on top of them. So I don't know, we'll see. I guess we'll learn and see what happens.
Your basic thing up north to look for is if you got a lot of snow, that you have an airway where they can get in and out, that they're not getting suffocated. The next thing, just lift them up. If you got weight in there, don't bother. If you got 3 boxes and you lift them up and the top box is empty, get the empty super off, you know, and put the lid on it. And those are the things that I would do. But I personally, I would not open a hive up and go through it this time of the year. No. Unless you can afford to lose it. If you can afford to lose it and you don't have nothing else to do and you want to play with it, you know, then do it.
No, I don't want to lose them because they were gentle bees, good producing, and it's a deep and 2 mediums. And
I would get 1 medium off if it don't have honey in it. I would get it off because you're losing a little heat there and you want to keep them compact as much as you can.
Okay. Yeah, if we get another warm day, but I got into it. It was like 48 degrees, so I don't mess with them unless it's in the upper 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Okay, then that'll be it for tonight. So if anyone wants to stick around for the after chat, I'm going to stop recording and then it will be an open forum so you guys can discuss amongst yourselves. So thank you, Don, and everybody else. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
That's for the bashful people now.
Yep, now everybody will be asking questions. So thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thanks for watching.
I got a question.